This is every single Phase 4 MCU movie ranked. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm your host Chris, and today on the channel we're going to have a fun video, Phase 4 top movies. So I'm going to give you my entire list from top to bottom, or let's do bottom to top to build a little bit of excitement, although I'm pretty sure everybody knows what my number one is going to be of the movies that came out during Phase 4. Now keep in mind, Phase 4 has not completed just yet. We're still waiting for the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special to come out in a couple of weeks, and that will finish up the entirety of Phase 4, moving us into 2023 and the beginning of Phase 5, which is going to be a pretty wild ride. But Phase 4 has been a complicated part of MCU history, and the inclusion of the Disney Plus series is definitely worth a conversation for another day. But today, just for the simplicity of it, we're going to talk about movies coming from Phase 4 only. So, I want you guys to go down, and before I go through my list, so pause the video, give me your guys' top movies from top to bottom from Phase 4. And that includes, in no particular order, Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and SpiderMan, No Way Home. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie and television news updates happening daily here on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. So, hopefully by now you've got your order of your list from these movies locked in. Of course, these are all opinions, guys, so we can debate and argue, but let's keep it fun. Here's my list. Coming in very last place, I have to put Black Widow. Now, there are a few reasons, and I will give them to you, but I want to start off by prefacing, I don't think any of these movies could actually be considered bad movies. I think they've all, in their own way, are a very Marvel-esque feel, a very Marvel movie, and serve the purpose that they were designed to serve. I do not have the opinion that Phase 4 is falling off. I have the opinion that Phase 4 is a building phase, that we're following after Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, the big ending to the first three phases of the MCU, with Iron Man, Captain America days, and people have a hard time with that change. I think Phase 4 has been a very successful building stage. I just think Black Widow was a little past its time. I think this would have been an even cooler movie had it come out during the Infinity Saga. Maybe the very beginning of Phase 3, and kind of gave us that background to a character who sacrificed everything, leading up to her giving the ultimate sacrifice in order for the Avengers to save the day. But it didn't happen that way, and for that, this movie actually comes in last place to me. We can talk about the bad CGI or a lot of the different complaints about casting and the overall story. I just feel the story would have hit harder to home and people would have enjoyed the sentimental aspect of it more had it not come out in Phase 4. For that reason, it's my last place movie. The next movie is Eternals. Now, this one I struggled with placement a lot. It very easily could have been my top 3 or top 4. It ended up being my second to last. The reason and my explanation for that is because I think this is one that's going to need to marinate a while. And by that I mean, in the future, as we get more story for the Eternals, it's going to be fun. Something I thoroughly enjoyed about Eternals and why it would have been so high up on my list is because it was a really cool way of telling the story. It came from a different perspective in a Marvel movie than we had really ever seen before, and they are building up to something really, really exciting and grand. We're just not there yet, and when you compare it to other films that came out in this phase, it has to go a little lower down because that excitement of knowing these characters and their story isn't quite there just yet. But I think it was a beautiful movie. The cast was very, very well selected, and they all did a fantastic job. There were moments that, for superhero movies, you don't really see this in this specific style. And it was really exciting to me to get this group introduced to the MCU, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future. Coming up, disappointingly so, I would say, is Thor, Love and Thunder. Now, I loved this movie. As an individual film, it was so much fun. I don't think I would place it above Thor Ragnarok, which is my favorite of the Thor films, but it was very similarly paced, and it gave us a really cool introduction to the cosmic side of the MCU in Phase 4. We got to see Eternity, and we really got to see this really cool adventure across space as Thor was not only trying to figure out who he was in this Phase 4 moments, but what was happening to all of his friends, the gods who were being butchered. He met his hero, who turned out to be kind of a loser, and there's a lot of looming second story there as well, which we'll meet further on. The reason it's as low as it is on the list is I think Thor has higher expectations. Being one of the OG Avengers definitely carries a weight, and Thor had a responsibility as one of those OG characters to really bring something super special to the big screen. I think at times the movie may have lost itself, and this is the reason why it fell a little lower down on my list. Thor definitely requires a little bit more attention. As we move forward into the future, people are ready to see a powerful, angry Thor, and once we do see a Rune King-like Thor, who in the comics is just a ruthless, strong character, people will definitely start putting Thor a little higher up in their list of exciting movies and exciting characters. But in my opinion, hopefully the lollygagging, goofing off, not very serious Thor has come to a conclusion, and I'm alright with what we got. I'm just ready for something else. Following this, I'm gonna have to put Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and here's my reasoning. This was a really, really good movie. I know a lot of people are actually even gonna put this on their top 2, maybe top 3 in their list. It's a little lower down on mine. It didn't quite make the top 3, and the reason for that is I feel the weight of Chadwick Boseman not being in the movie. That's not anybody's fault. It's extremely difficult to navigate the waters of having your lead character, who the entire franchise's shoulders were built on, not be in the second movie. It was unavoidable. There was nothing anybody can do about it. But imagine for a moment if Chadwick Boseman actually made it to the second film. Now, there's a tragedy. It's sad. It's not an expectation. Oh, how could Chadwick Boseman die? It's super, super sad, and it was hard to deal with, and I couldn't imagine being the actors who had to relive that passing of a dear friend of theirs by acting for the passing of T'Challa as well. Because the reality of it is T'Challa only passed because Chadwick Boseman passed. And they're hopefully going to remedy that and be able in the future, based off some of the information we got in that movie, to build a new weight, a new character to hold the weight, rather, of the franchise. But we really had a huge hole in that, and everybody did their best with a terrible situation, but it did hold this movie back from being top 3 for me. Coming in at number 3 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this is one I know a lot of people won't agree with. I think many people are going to put this one lower down on their list, probably maybe bottom 3, but I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. It wasn't necessarily everything I wanted it to be. The Multiverse of Madness was more like the multiverse of a few moments of really awesome scenes. It wasn't as multiverse driven, but the Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, America Chavez, they all did so well carrying this movie. And then the fun surprises of Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, Xavier, and the others of the Illuminati, however briefly part of the film, it was really exciting to realize that, and watching that in several different theaters. Some were the red carpet theater, some were just at my hometown. The crowds went wild when we saw those characters for the first time, and then silent when they were gone. And that movie truly did move us to have an opinion. And my opinion was, overall, a more horror-esque vibed movie that was very successfully put together by Sam Raimi, was extremely successful, and I'm excited to see stuff similar to it in the future. Coming in at number 2 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, this is opposite of the Eternals. Whereas with the Eternals, I felt like they're a little bit more unknown and hard to get behind, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is one of the best origin stories for a character in the MCU. The only character I would put Shang-Chi behind is Iron Man. The 2008 introduction of Iron Man, we're going to really honestly call that the introduction and the beginning of the MCU, even though technically the Hulk movie is incorporated and included, it's just non-beatable. They're not going to find, for me, a story more compelling and more awesome, with blades of fire and glory and RDJ. It's not going to be surpassed. But Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings came very close. A very compelling story for a character who previously wasn't in the MCU, and an outstanding origin story. So a lot of fun, and I had a blast watching it. So I can't wait to find out the future of the Ten Rings, the Ten Rings organization, the entire story, which seems like Shang-Chi actually might be playing a very vital role, with a possible connection to Ms. Marvel and her bangles. Can't wait to find out where that's coming from. Overall, visually stimulating, the fight scenes, the kung fu style, the culture. I just enjoyed Shang-Chi so much. and that's why I have awarded it the second spot. The first spot, however, at no surprise, has to be Spider-Man No Way Home. We can talk about fan service and nostalgia and kind of cheating all you want, however, it was done almost perfectly. The scenes where all three Peters were on the screen either as Spider-Man or as Peter Parker were nothing but an absolute roller coaster of emotion. I grew up watching the original, for me, Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, then Andrew Garfield's movies. I've always loved Tom Holland. I like all three of them individually as Spider-Man, and then to see them share the screen, pull off some legendary memes, make some crazy references, have an awesome fight scene. The only complaint I have is I would have wanted more, and it was already a really long movie. They got the Spider-Man in there, they got them out. We're hoping to see more of this in the future, not only with the Spider-Man, but with other legacy characters from the X-Men franchise, from the Fantastic Four franchise, and it really did create an awesome staple. But I also want to talk about the anticipation. As much as we were complaining about the insane marketing was part of what created so much hype around the movie. Whether it was on purpose, an accident, negligence, or brilliance, Sony really had us on the edge of our seats. We had a live stream waiting for a trailer that had 500,000 people come through in 2 hours. These are moments I'll never forget as a YouTuber, as a fan of Spider-Man, and honestly, this movie is one of the best movies ever created for fans of comic books, for fans of Spider-Man, and for fans of cinema. It was an iconic creation, and it definitely has to be appreciated for what it was, and that was a massive success. So it would be neglectful for me not to put Spider-Man No Way Home in first place on this list. So there you have it, 1 through 7, my favorite Phase 4 MCU movies. Spider-Man No Way Home, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Thor, Love and Thunder, The Eternals, and Black Widow. Again, I want to emphasize, I think they were all individually fantastic projects, and definitely a lot of switching before I finalized my list as to what went where. But when I sat down and I read this list to you guys, I believe it and I stand by it. I'm not going to swip swap or change anything. This is 100% my final list of Phase 4 movies. Excited for Phase 5, as you should be. Let me know what you thought about my list. What disagreements do you have? Just remember, it's an opinion. At the end of the day, we're all just having fun and loving comic book movies. So let me know what you think. I'll chat with you guys all in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys all on the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.